All right, welcome back to the channel. So thank goodness the pot is getting hot. Errol Spence Jr. puts Terence Crawford on blast and says, we'll see who's holding up when I get that third belt, which to me means he's looking at fighting Yordenis Ugas next. He also insists that the Terence Crawford fight is going to happen. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. Yes, we talking about it again, and I don't care. We're talking about Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. I will fight to the death to get this fight made, man. We've got to see it. It's the best fight in American boxing that we can get, and it's something we just, man, I'm telling you, I know it gets old pushing on it, but it's got to happen for the sport of boxing. But so last night, Terence Crawford said something, Errol Spence Jr. said something, Terence Crawford said something, and at the end of it, to me, the most important thing is that Errol Spence Jr. said, man, this fight is going to happen, okay? So let's go through it and then talk about what it means, but most specifically, the path that these fighters are most likely on that will wind up being, and I'm telling you, I'm crossing my fingers, I'm getting my checkbook ready to pay for it, all that type of stuff, the path that I really believe these guys can make. But before we get into that, please make sure that you follow me on Instagram, and also make sure that you come to the live streams that we do every morning at 8 a.m. And thank you for the super chats that we use to promote fighters over on the Instagram page. So Terence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. are both at the Maurice Hooker versus Virgil Ortiz fight, or I think you may need to flip that and say Virgil Ortiz versus Maurice Hooker. It was for a WBO, like, international belt, whatever, but it was a good fight for Virgil Ortiz, good night of boxing. The most exciting thing really about the fight, other than the Sinisa Estrada fight versus Ortiz fight, which, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it. Terrific boxing match. But it was the fact that Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford were both in the building at the same time again. And I'm telling you, this has been happening on a regular basis, that these guys are both in the same building at the same time. That in and of itself is a very, very good sign. It makes me believe that behind all of this stuff, all of the talking, that these guys are going to want to make it happen. Now, Chris Mannix asked Terence Crawford about the Errol Spence Jr. fight, and he said, look, I'm past that fight. I don't care about that fight. I don't want to talk about that fight. I'm on to the next. That's what I think about that fight. Very dismissive of it. Very much like, I'm getting it, we're done. But, unfortunate for Terence, we've got logic, okay? And we understand how much money is at stake, and we understand how much pride he has, and the fact that he definitely wants that fight. I'm not buying that he doesn't want the fight. The issue is, how much money is the man going to get? How much money is the man going to get paid? And so Errol Spence Jr. is saying, look, man, 70-30, and he's just bossing up because, hey, man, Errol Spence Jr. is the one that financially can boss up. He's the guy that can legitimately say, hey, Canelo Alvarez, I want to fight 50-50. You know what I'm saying? Let's fight here in Dallas Stadium. Me and you meet at 160 pounds, and it's a 50-50 fight. 50% for the gate, 50% for the pay-per-view revenue, 50% for the guaranteed money, because we know we're going to have a $150 million fight, and you ain't getting that with nobody else. Errol Spence Jr. can also do that with Manny Pacquiao, and he can do that with Terence Crawford. So, it is what it is when he says what percentages that he wants. But at the end of it, what Errol Spence Jr. said was, look, man, he said, we'll see after I get the third belt, who's holding what up, right? So what does that mean? The third belt is obviously a fight with Yordenis Ugas. Now, if you recall, and a lot of people that are on Errol Spence Jr.'s back talk about the fact that he's ducking Terence Crawford. But if you listen to what he said well before, after he won the belt against Kell Brook, and I do believe beginning with the fight with Lamont Peterson, he started talking about strap season and saying how he was going to go and collect all of the belts that are on the PBC side of the street. And once he got done with that, then he would go and he would fight and clean up the other side of the street and get the WBO belt. That is what he said he was going to do at the time that he was fighting Lamont Peterson. Because I don't think that there was a fight between Lamont Peterson and Kell Brook. I think it was Kell Brook, Lamont Peterson, and then from there it was Carlos Ocampo. So it was strap season. It was definitely before that conversation took place. And so what did he do? He had the IBF belt. He went and he tried to fight Sean Porter. Sean Porter initially didn't want the fight, right? Sean Porter, or not, he didn't want the fight. According to Sean Porter's camp, somebody other than he didn't want the fight. So what did he do? He took a big pay-per-view fight that made him, again, I think it was maybe his first pay-per-view fight against Mikey Garcia. They did like 350,000 pay-per-view. It had 50,000 people. It had 50,000 people in the AT&T Stadium, all for Errol Spence Jr. So he went and he did that. And then what did he do? He went right to a fight with Sean Porter. After he got into a car accident, he took care of a mandatory. The mandatory was Danny Garcia. Then he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. So the next fight, if that's what he's saying, would be with Yordenis Ugas. You see, you don't hear Manny Pacquiao, you don't hear Errol Spence Jr. talking about wanting to fight Manny Pacquiao anymore. Hasn't mentioned his name, and to Terence Crawford's credit, at least as of late, I haven't heard him wanting to fight with Manny Pacquiao either, because now, as we know, Manny Pacquiao's no longer the WBC champion. So that's where I'm saying that I believe that I feel like there's some hope. One, Errol Spence Jr. saying, look, the fight is going to happen, which means he's going to be willing to compromise and make the fight, right? Terence Crawford saying that he doesn't want the fight is all about the money, and that's it, right? If that's the only issue he's ever had, it's about the cut of the money, and he's like, look, I'm done talking about it. But if Errol said, hey, man, why don't we do 50-50? Terence Crawford, if he did turn around and say, oh, no, 55-45 in mine, then you got to throw him out of the window, right? Then it's like, hey, get out of here. But right now, it's just, it's the negotiation, man. So, but the path is a good path for both of these fighters, and I think it could make for a fight happening in early 2022. If you have Errol Spence Jr., who fights Yordenis Ugas, and who gets that third belt, and I do believe that you have probably after that the mandatory for Errol Spence Jr. for the mandatory for the IBF, which is either going to be Abukharov or Sergey. Well, I don't think it's going to be Sergey Lipinets. I think Sergey Lipinets was fighting for it. He's fighting Jaron Ennis. I don't think that's for the mandatory position for the IBF. I think it's for something else. So maybe Abukharov, he's going to have to do the IBF mandatory, get that out of the way. And then there's going to probably be a two-path fight for Terence Crawford. One would be, I'm not exactly sure. I don't think Virgil Ortiz, if Golden Boy is smart, but if they want to throw that young man away, Virgil Ortiz or somebody like Alexander Putin, somebody like that, and then probably, forgive me. Josecito Lopez is the name that I heard that was being bandied about, and then from Josecito Lopez to Sean Porter, and then hopefully from there you get a unification fight. That's my hope. I'm trying to put a positive spin on the thing because I really, really want to see this fight. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think, and with that, I'm out. Peace.